Good evening. It's Saturday, the 14th of June. You're tuned in to our 6 p.m. newscast coming to you from ARIRANG's news centre in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this evening, the upcoming June parliamentary session is expected to be jam-packed with the bipartisan probe into April's ferry disaster underway, as well as accident-related bills up for review and cabinet minister nominees awaiting confirmation. But, as our Choi You-sun tells us, it's going to be a bumpy road ahead.
During the extraordinary session for the month of June starting on Wednesday, the ruling and opposition sides could continue to butt heads over the bipartisan probe to determine the causes and culprits of April's Sewol-ho ferry disaster. While the special committee has agreed to set up an investigative team, including representatives of the families of the victims Tuesday, the ruling party wants briefings about the accident from related government ministries to start on June 23rd at the latest. Citing the lack of time to investigate the facts, the opposition side wants the briefings to be held from July 14th to the 26th. There are a number of bills that need to be reviewed by standing committees, many of them put forth in the aftermath of the ferry tragedy. Some of the bills include one designed to root out corruption in public service and another restricting retired public officials from privileges and employment in the public sector. Following President Park's personnel appointments this week, there are 9 nominees that need to be confirmed by Parliament. Controversy over Prime Minister nominee Moon Chang-guk's past remarks on Korean history continues to mount.
Calling on the nominee to withdraw without listening to his views, will and beliefs would be ignoring the parliamentary personnel verification process and an anti-parliamentary way of thinking. So long as President Park Geun-hye insists on keeping the Prime Minister nominee or the Presidential Chief of Staff, our nation will regress and division of public opinion will intensify.
But with the two parties falling short of completing the formation of standing committee heads and settling other issues, it remains uncertain whether they will be able to pass the bills and confirm the cabinet nominees during the upcoming session. Choi You-sun, ARIRANG News.
And staying with domestic politics, the July 30th parliamentary by-elections being billed as a mini general election are turning into a rematch for the two main political parties here in Korea after the recent local elections ended with no clear winner. Our Ji Myung-gil has this report.
With no overall winner in this month's local elections, Korea's rival parties are gearing up for a rematch in the July by-elections. The number of assembly seats up for grabs could be as high as 16, which would elevate it as the most hotly contested by-election in Korea's history. 14 seats were left vacant by former lawmakers who handed in their assembly badges to run in the local elections, and those who lost their seats for violating election laws. 2 more seats could be available as lawmakers are awaiting rulings on other charges. The ruling Saenuri Party's strategy will revolve around embracing President Park Geun-hye and her push for national reforms. The main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy, or NPAD, has yet to release its campaign plan. But NPAD leaders have said that new candidates should be nominated within party primaries and political heavyweights left on the sidelines. Some NPAD lawmakers are saying the party should broaden its alliance by forming coalitions with other smaller opposition parties like the Justice Party. One thing that can be counted on, though, is that the main opposition alliance will continue to take aim at the government's handling of April's ferry disaster. Unless the main opposition provides viable alternatives to the ruling party's policies, it will probably fail to win over voters during next month's by-elections. But with neither party enjoying an overwhelming advantage, voter sentiment could shift in the coming weeks. Ji Myung-gil, ARIRANG News.
The United States plans to boost its missile defense system in Japan in response to the ongoing threat posed by North Korea. In a report this week to the US Senate on his agency's budget request for the fiscal year 2015, Missile Defense Agency Director Admiral James D. Schring suggested strengthening the missile defense system between the US and Japan as a way to defend against North Korea's long-range missiles. Schring said North Korea has demonstrated through flight testing a capability that threatens South Korea. He also added that North Korea's annual provocation cycles were very concerning. The US official went on to say that an additional advanced radar system would be sent to Japan before the end of this year. Now, former US Secretary of State and the next possible Democrat presidential candidate Hillary Clinton has criticized the Japanese Prime Minister's visit to a controversial war shrine last year, when Japan's Nihon Keizai Shimbun Daily asked her about her views on Shinzo Abe's running of state affairs. Clinton said guiding the nation on a right path while avoiding unnecessary responses from other countries would benefit Japan. And when asked if she was referring to Abe's Yasukuni Shrine visit, she said yes. As for strained ties between Seoul and Tokyo over historical differences, Clinton said the issue is not one that can be easily controlled. Now, moving on to some health news. And a new study out of Korea shows that, or claims at least, that patients suffering from asthma have a higher chance of getting osteoporosis, which is the disease, of course, that weakens bones and makes them extremely brittle. Kim Min-ji reports on how the two illnesses are linked.
65-year-old Kang Gi-soon has been suffering from asthma for 15 years. 8 years ago, she was also diagnosed with osteopenia, a condition characterized by lower than normal bone density, but not as severe as osteoporosis. It came as a shock to her as she believed her bones were strong.
People would call me Jamie Summers from the movie Bionic Woman because my bones didn't break even in a car accident. When I was told I had osteopenia, I didn't think it was serious at first.
A new study shows that some patients who suffer from respiratory illnesses also experience a decline in bone density. A research team at Seoul National University Hospital conducted a test on some 7,000 people over 6 years and found that patients suffering from asthma have a 1.3 times higher chance of getting osteopenia and nearly double the chance of getting osteoporosis. Then how are these two seemingly different illnesses related? The research team points to vitamin D. Vitamin D plays two roles in our body. First, to absorb calcium, and second, to prevent allergic reactions. Therefore, if a patient has either asthma or osteoporosis, researchers say they are more prone to getting the other.
If a patient lacks vitamin D, the body cannot properly absorb calcium, raising the chances of getting osteoporosis. As a vitamin also plays a role in our immune system, a lack of it will also cause our system to weaken.
Doctors advise patients with asthma to regularly get bone density checkups and get enough sunlight each day as it produces vitamin D. The findings have been published in the journal Allergy, Asthma, and Clinical Immunology. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
US President Barack Obama has ruled out sending American troops back into combat in Iraq, despite the threat of a surging army of Islamist militants. Speaking at the White House on Friday, Obama said his National Security Council was still considering options, but the rapid militant advance through Iraq was not solely or even primarily a military challenge for Washington. He said any US action to provide assistance to Iraqi security forces would have to be joined by a serious effort by Iraq's leaders to set aside their sectarian differences. The Sunni insurgents from the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, or ISIS, controls territory that extends from the edge of Aleppo in western Syria across the Iraqi border to Fallujah in the south and Mosul in the north. The group is well known for its radical Islam, a form so violent that it has been disowned by Al-Qaeda. Pro-Russian separatists have shot down a Ukrainian military transport plane some 10 kilometers from the eastern city of Luhansk, killing several people on board. Ukraine's defense ministry on Saturday offered its condolences to the families of the dead, but did not say how many had lost their lives in the attack. It said, quote, terrorists fired a large caliber machine gun, hitting the plane as it was approaching the city's airport. Sources within Ukraine, though, say up to 49 people may have been on the plane when it was shot down. Luhansk, close to the Russian border, is the main city of one of two eastern regions hit by pro-Russian separatist violence and which has declared its independence from Kiev. Now, on a much lighter note and an update on the 2014 World Cup taking place in Brazil. The Netherlands surprised everybody by coming from behind to thrash the reigning champion Spain 5-1. The match, one of the biggest shocks in recent World Cup history, will also be remembered for Robin van Persie's goal, an unbelievable diving header. In Friday's other games, Chile beat Australia 3-1 in the other Group B match. Mexico won 1-0 against Cameroon. In Saturday's action coming up tonight, Colombia take on Greece, Uruguay play Costa Rica, and Ivory Coast go up against Japan. But the highlight of the night, for many, is the game between England and Italy. And finally, taking a brief look at the weather. Most of the country is under partly cloudy skies this evening. It will be a mild night with the overnight low dipping to 15 degrees Celsius in Seoul. We will see similar conditions to today on Sunday with clear blue skies, and the daytime highs will be in the high 20s to low 30s. Let's take a look at the weather wherever you are in the world. And that's all we have for now, but we'll be back again for our next newscast coming up at 10 p.m. Korea time.